In the annals of European history, the early 18th century was a time of seismic shifts. The War of Spanish Succession, 1701 to 1714, not only redrew borders but also redefined the balance of power across the continent. Amid the clamor of battles and diplomatic intrigue, one young woman, barely out of childhood, stepped onto the stage of history. Her name was Marie Louise Gabrielle of Savoy, and at just 13 years old, she became the Queen of Spain. Her story is one of courage, resilience, and quiet yet profound influence, a tale that intertwines personal devotion with the political fate of an empire. The War of Spanish Succession began with a crisis of inheritance. In 1700, Charles II, the last Habsburg king of Spain, died without an heir. His death left a power vacuum in one of Europe's most powerful empires. Spanning territories from the Americas to Asia, Charles's will named Philip of Anjou, grandson of France's Louis XIV, as his successor. This decision alarmed other European powers, who feared the union of France and Spain under a single Bourbon dynasty. Thus, a coalition of nations, including England, the Dutch Republic, and the Holy Roman Empire, rose to challenge Philip's claim, plunging Europe into war. Amid this chaos, Marie Louise Gabrielle was married off to Philip V in a union meant to solidify alliances. Born in 1688 to Victor Amadeus II, Duke of Savoy, and Marie d'Orleans, she grew up in a court that was a crossroads of Italian elegance and French grandeur. Her lineage made her a pawn in the intricate chess game of European politics. But her intelligence, grace, and tenacity would make her a queen worthy of remembrance. The journey from Savoy to Madrid was long and arduous, both physically and emotionally. 13. Marie Louise Gabrielle left her family and homeland behind to fulfill a role she could scarcely comprehend. Her arrival in Spain was met with mixed reactions. On the one hand, the Spanish court admired her beauty and poise. On the other, there was skepticism about whether a girl of her age could navigate the treacherous waters of court politics. Marie Louise Gabrielle's marriage to Philip V was not merely a union of two individuals. It was a critical alliance aimed at legitimizing Philip's rule. The Bourbon dynasty faced immense opposition both domestically and internationally. The young queen, with her Savoyard roots and French connections, was expected to bridge divides and inspire loyalty among Philip's subjects. Her role was as much political as it was personal. The Spanish court of the early 18th century was a microcosm of the broader tensions engulfing Europe. It was a place of rigid protocol, where power struggles played out not just in council chambers but also in salons and ballrooms. For a young queen like Marie Louise Gabrielle, these challenges were daunting, yet, from the outset, she displayed a remarkable ability to adapt. She quickly mastered Spanish, won over influential courtiers, and began to carve out a space for herself in the king's inner circle. Philip V, for his part, was an enigmatic figure. As the first Bourbon king of Spain, he carried the weight of a dynasty's ambitions on his shoulders. Yet, he was also a man prone to bouts of melancholy and indecision. For Philip, Marie Louise Gabrielle became not just a queen, but a confidant and a source of strength. Their marriage, though arranged, evolved into a partnership that would anchor the Spanish monarchy during one of its most turbulent periods. The war raging across Europe cast a long shadow over the Spanish court. The young queen found herself thrust into the complexities of diplomacy and statecraft. Despite her youth, she began to play a quiet but crucial role in supporting Philip's efforts to maintain his throne. She served as a mediator, calming tensions within the court and fostering alliances with key nobles. Her letters to her family in Savoy reveal a keen understanding of the political landscape and a deep commitment to her new role. Marie Louise Gabrielle's influence extended beyond the realm of politics. She brought a touch of Savoyard sophistication to the Spanish court, reshaping its culture and etiquette. Her patronage of the arts and her efforts to modernize the royal household reflected a vision that was both progressive and rooted in tradition. These contributions, though often overshadowed by the grand narratives of war and diplomacy, left an indelible mark on Spanish society. Yet, her life was not without challenges. The pressures of queenship, coupled with the personal strain of living through a protracted war, took a toll on her health. She bore 4 children in quick succession, ensuring the continuity of the Bourbon line but at great personal cost. Her untimely death at the age of 26 was a devastating blow to Philip V and the Spanish court. Her passing marked the end of a brief but impactful chapter in Spanish history, one that would shape the future of the Bourbon dynasty. Marie Louise Gabrielle of Savoy may not be as well known as some of history's more flamboyant queens, but her legacy is undeniable. She was a queen who stood firm in the face of adversity, a wife who supported her husband through the darkest of times, and a mother who secured the future of a dynasty. Her story is a testament to the quiet yet powerful influence that women have wielded throughout history, often in the shadows of great events. As we delve into the chapters of her life, we will explore the many facets of her story. The girl who left her home for a foreign land, the queen who helped stabilize a fractured empire, and the woman whose legacy endures in the annals of history. Marie Louise Gabrielle of Savoy was more than a queen. She was a cornerstone of the Bourbon dynasty, a figure whose impact resonates far beyond the confines of her short life. The House of Savoy, one of Europe's oldest dynasties, was steeped in a legacy of political maneuvering, military ambition, and cultural refinement. By the late 17th century, the Duchy of Savoy, nestled in the foothills of the Alps, occupied a strategically vital position between France, Italy, and the Habsburg territories. This geographical significance often made it a focal point in the power struggles of Europe's great empires. It was within this environment of intricate diplomacy and constant tension that Marie Louise Gabrielle of Savoy was born on March 17, 1688. Marie Louise was the third child and second daughter of Victor Amadeus the Tutich, Duke of Savoy, and Marie d'Orleans, niece of Louis XIV of France. Her birth brought joy to a court that was always looking to strengthen its ties to other European powers. Her parents, despite their political challenges, sought to provide their children with the best upbringing possible, ensuring they were well-versed in the arts, languages, and customs necessary for survival in the volatile world of royal courts. From an early age, Marie Louise showed signs of the intelligence and poise that would later define her role as queen. Her tutors praised her quick mind, and she displayed an innate ability to grasp complex concepts. Unlike her elder siblings, who often felt burdened by their royal responsibilities, Marie Louise seemed to embrace the expectations placed upon her. Her upbringing was steeped in the courtly culture of Savoy, a blend of Italian sophistication and French elegance. This unique combination would later serve her well in the Spanish court. Victor Amadeus the Tutich, a shrewd and often unpredictable ruler, recognized the importance of his children as pawns in the chessboard of European politics. The War of the Grand Alliance, 1688 to 1697, which pitted Louis XIV's France against a coalition of European powers, had underscored the precarious position of Savoy. Victor Amadeus's shifting alliances during the war reflected his pragmatic approach to survival, and he understood that marrying his children into powerful families could secure his duchy's future. Marie Louise's mother, Marie d'Orleans, played a significant role in shaping her daughter's character. A niece of the Sun King himself, Marie brought French refinement to the Savoyard court. She instilled in Marie Louise a sense of duty and an appreciation for the complexities of royal life, and Marie often spoke of the sacrifices required of queens, reminding her daughter that a royal marriage was not just a union of two people but a symbol of broader alliances and responsibilities. By the time Marie Louise reached her early teens, she had grown into a young woman of remarkable beauty and charm. Her delicate features, combined with a graceful demeanor, made her a prized candidate for marriage among Europe's royal families. Yet, It was her lineage and the strategic importance of Savoy that ultimately determined her fate. The War of Spanish Succession loomed on the horizon, and Europe's great powers were already maneuvering to secure their interests in the Spanish crown. The death of Charles II of Spain in 1700 without an heir plunged Europe into crisis. The Spanish Habsburg Empire, once a dominant force, was now a prize that both the Bourbon dynasty of France and the Austrian Habsburgs sought to claim. Louis XIV, ever the master strategist, recognized the potential of Savoy as a valuable ally, marrying his grandson, Philip of Anjou, to a daughter of Savoy would not only secure a loyal partner, but also lend additional legitimacy to Philip's claim to the Spanish throne. Thus, in 1701, at the tender age of 13, Marie Louise Gabrielle was chosen to marry Philip of Anjou, who had recently been proclaimed Philip V of Spain. The decision was not hers to make, as was the case for most royal brides of the time. Nevertheless, she accepted her fate with a sense of duty that belied her years. The marriage was arranged with remarkable speed, given the urgency of the political situation. For Marie Louise, it marked the beginning of a journey that would take her far from the familiar confines of Savoy to the grandeur and intrigue of the Spanish court. The journey to Madrid was both a literal and symbolic transition for Marie Louise. It was a grueling trek through the mountainous terrain of her homeland, across the plains of France, and into the heart of Spain. The procession was a spectacle, designed to emphasize the significance of the union between Savoy and the Bourbon dynasty. Along the way, Marie Louise was introduced to the customs and traditions of her new kingdom, a process that would prepare her for the immense challenges ahead. The Spanish court, steeped in centuries of Habsburg tradition, was a stark contrast to the vibrant and relatively liberal environment of Savoy. The rigid protocol, combined with the weight of expectations placed upon the young queen, could have overwhelmed someone less determined. Yet, Marie Louise rose to the occasion. She quickly learned Spanish, adapted to the formalities of court life, and began to build relationships with key figures in Philip's administration. Her marriage to Philip V was initially met with skepticism by some members of the Spanish court. They questioned whether a girl of her age could fulfill the responsibilities of queenship, especially during such a tumultuous period. However, Marie Louise soon proved her critics wrong. Her intelligence and charm won over many of the courtiers, and her unwavering support of Philip endeared her to the king. The bond between them grew stronger with time, transforming an arranged marriage into a genuine partnership. Marie Louise's early experiences in the Spanish court laid the foundation for her role as a stabilizing force during the War of Spanish Succession. She understood the precarious position of the Bourbon dynasty and recognized the importance of maintaining unity within the court. Her upbringing in Savoy, where diplomacy was a way of life, had prepared her well for the challenges she now faced. As the war raged on, Marie Louise's influence began to extend beyond the confines of the royal household. She became a trusted advisor to Philip, offering insights that reflected her keen understanding of both politics and human nature. Her ability to navigate the intricacies of court life, combined with her unwavering loyalty to her husband, made her an indispensable asset to the Spanish monarchy. In the years to come, Marie Louise Gabrielle of Savoy would play a pivotal role in shaping the destiny of the Bourbon dynasty. Her journey from the tranquil valleys of Savoy to the tumultuous court of Madrid was only the beginning of a story that would leave an indelible mark on Spanish history. As a queen, a wife, and a mother, she would prove to be a figure of quiet strength and profound influence, a legacy that would endure long after her untimely death. Marie Louise Gabrielle's arrival in Spain in September 1701 marked the beginning of a new chapter, not only for her but for the Bourbon dynasty she was now part of. At the tender age of 13, she crossed the threshold of a foreign land, stepping into a world fraught with political strife and expectations that would have daunted someone twice her age. Yet, what unfolded in the Spanish court was the story of a girl who transformed her vulnerabilities into strengths. becoming an anchor for a king and a fledgling dynasty. The journey from Savoy to Madrid had been a grueling test of endurance, traveling through the rugged terrain of the Pyrenees, accompanied by an entourage of courtiers, diplomats, and guards. Marie Louise had little time to process the magnitude of her new role. The journey was not merely physical. It was also a transition into a life that required her to leave behind her childhood and assume the mantle of queenship. Her first meeting with Philip V was both poignant and pivotal. Philip, only 17 at the time, had recently ascended the Spanish throne amidst the chaos of the War of Spanish Succession. He was a reserved and introspective young man, deeply aware of the immense pressure on his shoulders. Their meeting, orchestrated with the grandeur typical of royal unions, revealed a surprising chemistry, despite their arranged marriage. Philip and Marie Louise shared a bond rooted in mutual respect and an understanding of their shared burdens. Marie Louise's entry into the Spanish court was met with a mix of anticipation and skepticism. The court, long dominated by Habsburg traditions, viewed the arrival of the young Bourbon queen with a critical eye. Spain had been governed by the Habsburg dynasty for centuries, and its customs, politics, and even architecture bore the weight of that legacy. For a young girl from the relatively modest Savoy court, the ornate and rigid structure of the Spanish monarchy was a stark adjustment. The court was rife with intrigue, with factions vying for influence over the new king. As a Bourbon monarch, Philip V faced hostility from those loyal to the Habsburgs, as well as from nobles who questioned his legitimacy. Into this cauldron of suspicion and ambition stepped Marie Louise, who quickly realized that her survival and her husband's depended on navigating these treacherous waters. One of her first challenges was to win the favor of the Spanish people and the court. Her beauty and youthful charm endeared her to many, but it was her determination to adapt that truly set her apart. Despite her youth, she immersed herself in the customs of her new homeland, learning Spanish with remarkable speed and adopting the formalities of court etiquette. This willingness to embrace her new identity as Queen of Spain did not go unnoticed, and it helped her forge alliances with key courtiers. In the intimate sphere of her marriage, Marie Louise proved to be a source of strength for Philip. The young king, thrust into his role amidst a war that threatened to tear Spain apart, often struggled with self-doubt and indecision. Philip's melancholic temperament and bouts of anxiety were well documented, and his court feared that his fragile psyche might compromise his ability to lead. Marie Louise, despite her own inexperience, became a confidant and stabilizing presence for her husband. She listened to his concerns, offered words of encouragement, and quietly influenced his decisions. As queen, Marie Louise's responsibilities extended far beyond her relationship with Philip. The War of Spanish Succession demanded not only military might but also diplomatic finesse. While Philip's ministers managed the day-to-day affairs of the war, Marie Louise played a subtler role. She fostered goodwill among the Spanish nobles, many of whom were still skeptical of the Bourbon rule. Her ability to connect with people on a personal level helped to bridge divides and solidify support for her husband's reign. One notable example of her influence occurred early in her tenure as queen, when Philip faced dissent from a faction of nobles loyal to the Habsburgs. It was Marie Louise who intervened. Through a combination of charm and pragmatism, she persuaded key figures to pledge their loyalty to the Bourbon cause. Her efforts were not limited to the court. She also engaged with the broader Spanish population, participating in public ceremonies and festivals to demonstrate her commitment to her new homeland. Marie Louise's role as queen was not without its challenges. The pressures of queenship, combined with the strain of war, took a toll on her health. Yet, she approached her duties with a maturity that belied her age. She understood that her position was not just a privilege but a responsibility, a lesson instilled in her during her upbringing in Savoy. Her letters from this period reveal a thoughtful and introspective young woman who was acutely aware of the stakes of her new life. Despite her successes, Marie Louise faced moments of profound isolation. Far from her family and familiar surroundings, she often found herself grappling with the weight of expectations placed upon her. The Spanish court, with its strict hierarchy and Byzantine protocols, could be an alienating place. Yet, even in her loneliest moments, she remained steadfast in her commitment to her husband and her adopted country. As the months turned into years, Marie Louise's influence grew. Her ability to navigate the complexities of the Spanish court, combined with her unwavering support for Philip, established her as a key figure in the Bourbon dynasty. Though still a teenager, she had become a queen in every sense of the word, a leader who balanced grace with resolve, tradition with adaptability. By the end of 1701, it was clear that Marie Louise Gabrielle was no ordinary queen. Her journey from Savoy to Spain, from child bride to young monarch, was a testament to her resilience and determination. In the face of immense challenges, she had begun to carve out a legacy that would shape not only her husband's reign but also the future of the Bourbon dynasty in Spain. The girl who had left Savoy as a political pawn was now a queen whose quiet strength would become the foundation of her rule. The War of Spanish Succession was not merely a test of military strategy. It was a crucible that would forge the future of Europe. And for Philip V and Marie Louise Gabrielle, it was a trial by fire. As newlyweds, their relationship had barely begun to develop when they were thrust into the maelstrom of one of the most consequential conflicts in European history. This war, born of the power vacuum left by the childless Charles II of Spain, pitted the Bourbon dynasty, represented by Philip V, against the Austrian Habsburgs and their allies. For Marie Louise, the war became the backdrop against which she would prove her mettle as a queen and partner to the king. Philip V's ascension to the Spanish throne was a contentious one, and his claim was immediately challenged by a coalition of European powers determined to prevent the unification of France and Spain under the Bourbon banner. England, the Dutch Republic, the Holy Roman Empire, and others rallied behind Archduke Charles of Austria, the Habsburg candidate for the Spanish throne. The conflict quickly escalated into a full-scale war, with battle lines drawn across Europe and beyond. For Spain, the stakes could not have been higher. The war threatened not only its territorial integrity, but also its very identity as a sovereign state. In the early years of the war, Spain became a battleground. The Spanish Netherlands, Italy, and the Americas were all theaters of conflict. But it was within Spain itself that the contest for the crown was most bitterly fought. For Marie Louise, the war was not an abstract geopolitical struggle but a daily reality that shaped her life and defined her role as queen. Her position was one of immense responsibility, requiring her to balance the personal with the political, the domestic with the dynastic. At the heart of her efforts was her unwavering support for Philip. The king, though young and inexperienced, bore the weight of the Bourbon dynasty's ambitions. His natural reticence and bouts of melancholy often made him hesitant in his decisions. And it was in these moments that Marie Louise's influence was most keenly felt. She became his confidant and counselor, offering him the emotional and intellectual support he needed to navigate the complexities of war and governance. Marie Louise's letters during this period reveal her keen understanding of the political stakes. She wrote not only to her family in Savoy but also to French officials, including her grandfather-in-law, Louis XIV. In her correspondence, she demonstrated a remarkable grasp of the broader strategic picture, advocating for policies that would strengthen Spain's position in the war. Her voice, though often understated, carried weight in the Bourbon alliance, and her efforts to maintain unity between Spain and France were instrumental in sustaining Philip's cause. At court, Marie Louise's role as mediator and unifier became increasingly important. The Spanish nobility, long accustomed to Habsburg rule, were divided in their loyalties. Many viewed the Bourbons as foreign interlopers, while others saw in Philip the hope of a revitalized monarchy. Marie Louise, with her charm and diplomacy, worked tirelessly to bridge these divides. She hosted salons and gatherings where nobles from opposing factions could find common ground. and she cultivated relationships with key figures who might otherwise have opposed Philip's rule. Her impact extended beyond the court. Marie Louise understood the importance of winning the loyalty of the Spanish people, who bore the brunt of the war's hardships. She participated in public ceremonies, visited wounded soldiers, and distributed aid to those affected by the conflict. These gestures, though symbolic, helped to bolster the image of the monarchy as a unifying force in a fractured nation. The Queen's ability to connect with the populace endeared her to many and strengthened the legitimacy of Philip's rule. As the war dragged on, the strain on Philip and Marie Louise became increasingly apparent. The demands of governing a nation at war, coupled with the personal toll of their responsibilities, tested their resilience, yet their partnership only deepened in the face of adversity. Marie Louise's steadfastness provided Philip with a sense of stability that he might otherwise have lacked. Together, they faced the challenges of war, sharing not only the burdens of leadership but also the moments of triumph and despair. The tide of the war shifted repeatedly over the years, with victories and defeats on both sides. The Battle of Almanza in 1707, a decisive victory for the Bourbons, marked a turning point in the conflict. It was a moment of celebration for Philip and Marie Louise, who saw it as a validation of their efforts and sacrifices. Yet, the war was far from over, and the years that followed brought new challenges and uncertainties. Throughout the conflict, Marie Louise's role as a mother added another layer of complexity to her life. She gave birth to 4 children during the war, ensuring the continuity of the Bourbon line but at great personal cost. The demands of motherhood, combined with her responsibilities as queen, placed immense pressure on her. Yet she faced these challenges with remarkable resilience. Her devotion to her children was evident in her letters and actions, and she sought to shield them from the harsh realities of the war as much as possible. By the time the war drew to a close with the Treaty of Utrecht in 1713, Marie Louise had established herself as a figure of quiet strength and profound influence. The treaty, which recognized Philip V as the legitimate king of Spain but required the relinquishment of several territories, marked the end of one chapter in the history of the Bourbon dynasty and the beginning of another. For Marie Louise, it was a moment of relief but also reflection. The war had tested her in ways she could never have imagined, shaping her into a queen who was as much a diplomat and stateswoman as she was a wife and mother. As the dust settled and Spain began to rebuild, Marie Louise's contributions to the Bourbon cause became increasingly apparent. Her ability to navigate the complexities of court politics, her efforts to unite a divided nation, and her unwavering support for Philip had been instrumental in securing the dynasty's survival. Yet, her story was far from over. The years that followed would bring new challenges and opportunities, as she continued to play a central role in shaping the future of Spain and the Bourbon dynasty. As the War of Spanish Succession gave way to an uneasy peace, Spain entered a new phase of rebuilding and realignment, and Marie Louise Gabrielle of Savoy emerged as more than just a queen. She became an indispensable political advisor to her husband, Philip V. Although only in her early 20s, Marie Louise had already demonstrated a keen understanding of the complex dynamics of governance, diplomacy, and the delicate balancing act required to maintain unity in a fractured kingdom. Her contributions during this period solidified her legacy as a queen whose influence extended far beyond the ceremonial. Philip V, though recognized as the legitimate king of Spain after the Treaty of Utrecht in 1713, faced the monumental task of restoring stability to a nation weakened by war. The treaty, while affirming Bourbon rule, came at the cost of several Spanish territories in Europe, including Naples, Milan, Sardinia, and the Spanish Netherlands. These concessions were a bitter pill for the Spanish court to swallow, and they fueled resentment among the nobility and military elite. For Philip, whose bouts of depression and indecision often paralyzed his leadership, the challenges of this post-war period were particularly daunting. It was during these years that Marie Louise's role as his confidant and advisor became most apparent. Marie Louise's upbringing in the court of Savoy had prepared her well for the intricacies of diplomacy. Savoy, a small but strategically important duchy, had long survived by skillfully navigating alliances with larger powers. This background gave her a unique perspective on the importance of negotiation and compromise. While Philip tended to view politics through the lens of absolutism, Marie Louise recognized the need to win hearts and minds, not just assert authority. She often acted as a mediator between Philip and his ministers, smoothing over conflicts and ensuring that the king's policies were implemented effectively. One of Marie Louise's most significant contributions during this period was her ability to manage the factions within the Spanish court. The aftermath of the war had left the court deeply divided, with some nobles still loyal to the Habsburgs and others skeptical of Philip's French-born advisors. Marie Louise used her charm, intelligence, and diplomatic skills to build alliances and foster a sense of unity. She hosted gatherings and informal salons where members of rival factions could meet and discuss their grievances in a less formal setting. These efforts helped to reduce tensions and strengthen the court's cohesion, allowing Philip to govern more effectively. In addition to her work within the court, Marie Louise played a key role in Spain's foreign relations. The Treaty of Utrecht had left Spain diplomatically isolated, with many of its former allies now aligned with the Habsburgs or other European powers. Marie Louise understood the importance of repairing these relationships and building new alliances. Through her correspondence with her family in Savoy and other influential figures in Europe, she advocated for policies that would restore Spain's standing on the international stage. Her letters, written in a style that combined eloquence with practicality, reveal a deep understanding of the geopolitical landscape and a commitment to protecting Spain's interests. One of the most remarkable aspects of Marie Louise's influence was her ability to guide Philip without undermining his authority. She understood that her role as queen was to support her husband, not overshadow him, and she was careful to offer her advice in a way that bolstered his confidence. In moments of crisis, when Philip's melancholy threatened to derail his decision-making, Marie Louise's calm and steady presence provided him with the reassurance he needed to lead. Her unwavering faith in his abilities, even when he doubted himself, was a source of strength for the king. Her contributions were not limited to the political sphere. As queen, Marie Louise took an active interest in the welfare of her subjects. She supported charitable initiatives, funded the construction of hospitals and schools, and worked to alleviate the suffering caused by the war. These efforts earned her the admiration of the Spanish people, who saw in her a queen who genuinely cared about their well-being. Her popularity was a valuable asset to the monarchy, helping to legitimize Bourbon rule in the eyes of the public. Despite her many successes, Marie Louise's role as a political advisor was not without its challenges. The tensions within the court often placed her in difficult positions, forcing her to navigate conflicting loyalties and competing interests. She was also acutely aware of the limitations of her influence. As a queen, her power was derived from her relationship with Philip, and she had to be careful not to overstep her bounds. Yet, even within these constraints, she managed to wield her influence with skill and tact, leaving an indelible mark on the policies and direction of Philip's reign. By the time Marie Louise turned 24, she had become an indispensable part of the Bourbon administration. Her ability to combine political acumen with personal grace made her a unique figure in the Spanish court, and her contributions during this period were instrumental in laying the groundwork for Spain's recovery. Her legacy as a queen who was as much a stateswoman as she was a wife and mother was firmly established, even as her health began to show signs of strain. As the Bourbon dynasty looked toward the future, it was clear that Marie Louise's influence would continue to shape the course of Spain's history. She had not only supported Philip in his darkest moments, but had also helped to steer the kingdom through one of its most challenging periods. Her role as a political advisor, though often overshadowed by the more visible figures of her time, was a testament to the quiet but profound power of a queen who understood the true meaning of leadership. The court of Madrid during the reign of Philip V was a labyrinth of power, intrigue, and cultural transformation. In the early 18th century, Spain was emerging from the long shadow of the Habsburg dynasty, whose rigid traditions had defined the monarchy for centuries. The arrival of Philip V, the first Bourbon king, brought a wave of French influence that clashed with entrenched Spanish customs. Into this volatile mix stepped Marie Louise Gabrielle of Savoy, a queen who would redefine the role of women in the court and reshape the dynamics of power in subtle but enduring ways. Marie Louise entered the Spanish court as an outsider. Her youth, foreign origins, and ties to Savoy and France marked her as a target for suspicion and scrutiny. Yet, she possessed an innate ability to adapt and connect with people from diverse backgrounds. Unlike the Habsburg queens who had preceded her, Marie Louise brought a sense of warmth and approachability that endeared her to many. This charm, combined with her sharp intellect, allowed her to navigate the complexities of court life with remarkable skill. The court of Madrid, like other European courts of the time, was a theater where power was performed as much as it was exercised. Ceremonial events, public audiences, and private gatherings were opportunities to display loyalty, negotiate alliances, and assert influence. For Marie Louise, these occasions were both a challenge and an opportunity. She quickly learned the nuances of Spanish court etiquette, blending the formalities of her new role with the sophistication she had inherited from her upbringing in Savoy. Her ability to balance tradition with modernity made her a refreshing presence in a court that often felt weighed down by its own history. One of Marie Louise's most significant contributions to the court was her role as a cultural bridge between Spain and France. As a Bourbon queen, she was expected to promote French customs and ideals, but she approached this task with sensitivity and tact. Rather than imposing French culture on the Spanish court, she sought to integrate the best of both worlds. Her patronage of the arts reflected this approach, as she supported Spanish artists and musicians while also introducing elements of French style and refinement. Marie Louise's court became a hub of intellectual and artistic activity. She invited writers, poets, and philosophers to share their ideas, fostering a spirit of innovation that had been largely absent under the Habsburgs. Her efforts to modernize the court extended to fashion and architecture, as she encouraged the adoption of French styles while respecting Spanish traditions. This blending of cultures not only revitalized the court, but also helped to strengthen the Bourbon dynasty's legitimacy by demonstrating its commitment to both its French and Spanish roots. While Marie Louise's cultural initiatives were widely celebrated, her political influence within the court was more controversial. The Spanish court was a hotbed of factionalism, with competing groups vying for the king's favor. As queen, Marie Louise was expected to remain above these rivalries, but her position inevitably drew her into the fray. She became a central figure in the Bourbon faction, using her influence to counter the power of the old Habsburg loyalists. Her ability to navigate these dynamics was crucial in consolidating Philip's authority, but it also earned her enemies among those who resented the Bourbons' ascendancy. One of the most significant challenges Marie Louise faced was the tension between French and Spanish courtiers. Philip's reliance on French advisors and ministers had alienated many Spanish nobles, who felt sidelined in their own government. Marie Louise sought to bridge this divide by fostering relationships with both groups, using her charm and diplomacy to build alliances. Her efforts to create a more inclusive court were not always successful, but they helped to mitigate some of the resentment and foster a sense of unity. The court of Madrid was also a place of profound personal relationships, and Marie Louise excelled in building connections that transcended politics. Her warmth and sincerity won her the loyalty of many courtiers, who admired her commitment to her role as queen. She was known for her generosity and kindness, often going out of her way to support those in need. These qualities made her a beloved figure within the court, even among those who did not always agree with her policies. Despite her many successes, Marie Louise's life at court was not without its challenges. The pressures of queenship, combined with the demands of her personal life, often left her feeling isolated. The rigid protocol of the Spanish court could be stifling, and the constant scrutiny from courtiers and diplomats took a toll on her health. Yet, even in her most difficult moments, she remained steadfast in her commitment to her husband and her adopted country. One of the defining aspects of Marie Louise's time at court was her relationship with Philip. Their partnership was not just a marriage but a collaboration, as they worked together to navigate the challenges of ruling a divided kingdom. Philip relied heavily on Marie Louise's advice and support, and her influence on his decisions was widely recognized. Their bond, forged in the crucible of war and political turmoil, became a source of strength for both of them. Marie Louise's legacy in the court of Madrid was one of transformation and renewal. She brought a sense of vitality to a court that had long been seen as stagnant and insular, introducing new ideas and fostering a spirit of openness. Her efforts to modernize the court and bridge the gap between French and Spanish cultures helped to lay the foundation for a more cohesive and dynamic monarchy. While her time as queen was tragically short, her impact on the court of Madrid was profound and enduring. As the court looked to the future, it was clear that Marie Louise had left an indelible mark on the Bourbon dynasty. Her ability to navigate the complexities of court life, her commitment to fostering unity, and her dedication to her role as queen had set a new standard for what it meant to be a monarch. In the years to come, her example would inspire future generations, ensuring that her legacy as a queen who transformed the court of Madrid would not be forgotten. The War of Spanish Succession left an indelible mark on Spain and its monarchy. Even after the signing of the Treaty of Utrecht in 1713, the scars of the conflict lingered, reshaping the nation's political and social fabric. For Marie Louise Gabrielle of Savoy, the war was more than a backdrop to her life. It was a crucible that tested her resolve and shaped her legacy. As a queen, she found herself navigating a complex web of alliances, military campaigns, and courtly intrigue, all while offering unwavering support to a husband whose psychological struggles often mirrored the turmoil of the times. The war's end did not bring immediate peace to Spain. Internally, the country was divided, with regions like Catalonia and Aragon resisting Bourbon centralization. Externally, Spain faced the challenge of redefining its place in a Europe where its empire had been diminished. Philip V, already prone to bouts of melancholy, felt the weight of these challenges acutely. It was during this period of uncertainty that Marie Louise's quiet strength became a stabilizing force for the monarchy. Philip's mental health had long been a source of concern for those around him. His episodes of depression, coupled with a tendency toward obsessive behavior, often left him paralyzed in the face of critical decisions. Marie Louise, aware of his vulnerabilities, took it upon herself to shield him from undue stress and to guide him through moments of crisis. Her presence was a balm to Philip, offering him a sense of stability in an otherwise chaotic world. Marie Louise's role as a mediator extended beyond her relationship with Philip. Within the court, tensions ran high between factions vying for influence over the king. The Bourbon loyalists, many of whom were French, clashed with Spanish nobles who resented the foreign dominance in their own government. Marie Louise, ever the diplomat, worked tirelessly to bridge these divides. Her ability to connect with people on a personal level, combined with her sharp political instincts, allowed her to foster a sense of unity that was essential for the survival of the Bourbon dynasty. One of the most significant challenges Marie Louise faced during this period was the resistance from the Catalonian aristocracy. Catalonia, a region with a strong sense of identity and autonomy, had supported the Habsburg claim to the Spanish throne during the war. Even after the Bourbon victory, tensions remained high, and Philip's policies of centralization only deepened the resentment. Marie Louise recognized the need for a more nuanced approach, advocating for policies that would integrate Catalonia into the Bourbon fold without alienating its people. Her efforts extended to the broader Spanish population, many of whom had suffered greatly during the war. The economic hardships and widespread devastation left in its wake demanded immediate attention. Marie Louise took an active role in supporting relief efforts, using her position to fund initiatives that provided food, shelter, and medical care to those in need. Her compassion and commitment to her people earned her widespread admiration, even among those who had initially been skeptical of the Bourbon monarchy. Amid these challenges, Marie Louise continued to play a vital role in Philip's administration. While she did not hold formal power, her influence was felt in nearly every aspect of governance. Her advice, often offered in private conversations with Philip, shaped the king's policies on matters ranging from taxation to foreign affairs. Her understanding of the broader geopolitical landscape, honed during her upbringing in Savoy, allowed her to anticipate the moves of Spain's rivals and to advocate for strategies that would strengthen the nation's position. Marie Louise's role as queen was not without personal sacrifices. The demands of her position, combined with the stress of navigating a court rife with intrigue, took a toll on her health. She suffered from frequent bouts of illness, which were exacerbated by the physical toll of childbirth. Between 1707 and 1713, she gave birth to 4 children, ensuring the continuity of the Bourbon line but at great personal cost. Despite her declining health, she remained steadfast in her duties, prioritizing the needs of her family and her kingdom above her own well-being. The birth of her children brought moments of joy amidst the challenges of queenship. Her eldest son, Louis, became the symbol of hope for the Bourbon dynasty, representing the future of the monarchy. Marie Louise took great care in overseeing their education, instilling in them a sense of duty and responsibility. Her efforts to shape her children into capable leaders were driven by a deep understanding of the importance of continuity in ensuring the stability of the monarchy. Marie Louise's influence was not limited to domestic matters. She played a key role in Spain's foreign relations, using her connections to the House of Savoy and other European powers to strengthen alliances. Her correspondence with her family and other influential figures reflected her keen awareness of the political dynamics at play. Through her efforts, Spain was able to maintain a degree of influence in a Europe where its power had been significantly reduced. Despite her many contributions, Marie Louise's time as queen was tragically short. By 1714, her health had deteriorated significantly, a consequence of the physical and emotional toll of her role. Her death at the age of 26 was a devastating blow to Philip, who was left bereft without her steadying presence. Her passing marked the end of an era, leaving a void that would be keenly felt in the years to come. Marie Louise Gabrielle of Savoy's legacy as a queen in the shadows of war is one of resilience and quiet strength. Her ability to navigate the complexities of her position, while offering unwavering support to her husband and her people, set her apart as a figure of profound influence. Though her life was brief, her impact on the Bourbon dynasty and the Spanish monarchy was enduring. She was a queen who led not through proclamations and decrees, but through compassion, wisdom, and an unshakable commitment to her role. Her story is a testament to the power of quiet leadership in the face of adversity, a legacy that continues to inspire and resonate to this day. The death of Marie Louise Gabrielle of Savoy in 1714 was a profound loss for the Spanish court. Yet her legacy endured in the lives of her children and the Bourbon dynasty she helped secure. As a mother, she had instilled values of duty, loyalty, and resilience in her offspring, ensuring that her influence would shape the monarchy long after her passing. Her sons, particularly the eldest, Louis, carried the hopes of the Bourbon lineage and the future of Spain. Marie Louise had given birth to 4 children during her reign as queen, though the infant mortality rates of the time meant not all would survive into adulthood. Her firstborn, Louis, Prince of Asturias, was the direct heir to the throne. He embodied the union between the Bourbon and Savoy families, a living symbol of the alliances that Marie Louise had worked so diligently to strengthen. Marie Louise had taken an active role in his upbringing, overseeing his education and surrounding him with capable tutors who could prepare him for the immense responsibilities that awaited him. Marie Louise's vision for her children extended beyond their formal education. She sought to instill in them an understanding of the sacrifices required of monarchs. Her letters, preserved in the archives of the Spanish court, reveal her desire to nurture not just rulers but compassionate and wise leaders. She believed that the monarchy's legitimacy depended on its ability to connect with the people it governed, a lesson she had learned through her own experiences as queen. This philosophy would shape the early years of her children's lives, even as they grew up without her direct guidance. The loss of their mother at such a young age left an indelible mark on Marie Louise's children. Louis, in particular, struggled with the weight of expectations placed upon him. As the Prince of Asturias, he was thrust into the spotlight, expected to emulate his father's strength and his mother's wisdom. Philip V, deeply affected by Marie Louise's death, turned to his son as the embodiment of her legacy. The relationship between father and son was complex, marked by both admiration and the pressure to uphold the standards Marie Louise had set. Marie Louise's influence extended beyond her immediate family. Her efforts to secure the Bourbon dynasty's place in Spain created a foundation upon which her children could build. The political stability she had fostered during her lifetime allowed Louis to step into his role as heir apparent with a sense of security. Even amid the challenges of succession, her vision of a united Spain under Bourbon rule continued to guide the monarchy's policies, ensuring that her work would not be undone. The lessons Marie Louise imparted to her children also resonated with the broader Spanish court. Her emphasis on unity, diplomacy, and compassion left a lasting impression on the nobles and advisors who had worked closely with her. These values became guiding principles for the Bourbon monarchy, influencing its approach to governance in the years following her death. Marie Louise's ability to bridge divides and foster a sense of collective purpose was a legacy that extended far beyond her role as queen. One of the most poignant aspects of Marie Louise's legacy was the way she continued to inspire those who had known her. Her story became a symbol of resilience and dedication, a reminder of the sacrifices required of leaders in times of upheaval. Her children, as they grew into their roles as princes and statesmen, often spoke of her with reverence, citing her as a source of strength and guidance. Even Philip V, who would later remarry, carried the memory of Marie Louise as a defining influence on his reign. The Bourbon dynasty, bolstered by the foundations Marie Louise had laid, would go on to navigate the complexities of 18th century Spain with a renewed sense of purpose. Her children, shaped by her teachings, played pivotal roles in ensuring the continuity of the monarchy. Louis, though his reign as king would be brief, embodied the ideals his mother had championed. His brothers, too, carried forward her legacy, contributing to the stability and growth of Spain in their own ways. Marie Louise Gabrielle of Savoy's role as a mother was as significant as her role as queen. She understood that her children were not just heirs to a throne but stewards of a legacy that transcended individual reigns. Through her dedication to their upbringing and her commitment to the values of leadership, she left an indelible mark on the Bourbon dynasty. Her influence, though often understated, was a testament to the enduring power of quiet strength and thoughtful guidance. As the years passed, the memory of Marie Louise remained alive in the hearts of those who had known her and in the policies that shaped Spain's future. Her life, though tragically short, was a testament to the impact a single individual could have on the course of history. Her legacy as a mother, a queen, and a symbol of resilience would continue to inspire generations to come, ensuring that her story was not just remembered but celebrated as a cornerstone of the Bourbon dynasty's success. The final years of Marie Louise Gabrielle of Savoy's life were marked by a mix of triumph and tragedy. Despite her accomplishments as a queen, wife, and mother, the burdens of her role and the toll of constant challenges began to weigh heavily on her health. By the time she reached her mid-20s, the years of political intrigue, personal sacrifice, and physical demands had left her frail. though her resolve remained steadfast. As Spain transitioned from the War of Spanish Succession into an era of reconstruction, Marie Louise's contributions to the stability of the Bourbon monarchy were more crucial than ever. The Treaty of Utrecht had established Philip V as the legitimate king of Spain, but it came with significant territorial losses, including key holdings in Italy and the Low Countries. These concessions weakened Spain's international standing and fueled resentment among some factions of the nobility. For Marie Louise, the aftermath of the war presented new challenges, as she sought to maintain the unity of a court still divided by loyalties and ambitions. Philip V, though a capable ruler, often struggled with his mental health, and his reliance on Marie Louise became even more pronounced during these years. Her role as his confidant and advisor extended beyond the personal. She was a stabilizing force in a court marked by uncertainty. Philip's melancholic episodes, which frequently left him withdrawn and indecisive, required her constant attention. Despite her own physical ailments, she remained a source of strength for the king, ensuring that the monarchy continued to function effectively. By 1713, Marie Louise's health had begun to deteriorate noticeably. The demands of queenship, combined with the strain of childbirth and the emotional weight of her responsibilities, had taken a severe toll. She had borne 4 children in quick succession: Louis, Ferdinand, Philip, and Charles, each birth adding to the physical challenges she faced. Yet, even as her strength waned, she continued to fulfill her duties with grace and determination. The birth of her youngest son, Charles, in January 1714, marked a bittersweet moment for the Queen. While she rejoiced in the continuation of the Bourbon line, the complications of childbirth left her weakened. Her physicians, limited by the medical knowledge of the time, could offer little more than rest and prayers. Marie Louise's letters during this period reveal her growing awareness of her fragility, though she rarely spoke of it openly. Instead, she focused on the future of her children and the stability of Spain. Marie Louise's final months were marked by a sense of urgency to ensure that her legacy would endure. She devoted much of her remaining energy to her children, particularly Louis, the Prince of Asturias. She took great care to instill in him a sense of duty and compassion, knowing that he would one day inherit the throne. Her influence on his education and character was profound, shaping him into a young man who embodied the ideals she had championed throughout her life. The Queen's relationship with the Spanish court also evolved during her final years. Her years of service and sacrifice had earned her the respect and admiration of many, even among those who had initially doubted her suitability for queenship. Her ability to navigate the complexities of court life, her commitment to the welfare of her people, and her unwavering support for Philip had made her a beloved figure in the eyes of many Spaniards. Public ceremonies and private audiences often turned into moments of heartfelt gratitude, as nobles and commoners alike expressed their appreciation for her leadership. Despite her efforts to maintain a sense of normalcy, the court was acutely aware of her declining health. Philip, deeply affected by her condition, struggled to balance his responsibilities as king with his role as a husband and father. His dependence on Marie Louise was evident to all, and her illness left him feeling adrift. Courtiers and advisors sought to shield the king from the worst of his anxieties, but the prospect of losing Marie Louise cast a shadow over the court. Marie Louise Gabrielle of Savoy passed away on February 14, 1714, at the age of 26. Her death sent shockwaves through the Spanish court and beyond. For Philip, it was a loss of immeasurable magnitude. The Queen, who had been his partner in every sense, his confidant, his advisor, his anchor, was gone. His grief was profound, plunging him into a period of mourning that would shape the remainder of his reign. The Spanish people, too, mourned the loss of their queen. Marie Louise's compassion, dedication, and resilience had endeared her to many, and her passing was felt as a national tragedy. Tributes poured in from across Spain and Europe, commemorating her life and her contributions to the Bourbon dynasty. Monuments were erected in her honor, and her memory was preserved in the hearts of those who had witnessed her quiet strength and unwavering commitment to her role. Marie Louise's death marked the end of a brief but impactful chapter in Spanish history. Her legacy, however, lived on through her children, her husband, and the policies she had helped shape. The unity she had fostered within the court, her efforts to modernize Spain, and her emphasis on compassion and diplomacy left an indelible mark on the Bourbon monarchy. Though her life was tragically short, her impact was profound, ensuring that her story would be remembered as one of resilience, wisdom, and enduring influence. In the years following her death, Philip V would remarry, and the Spanish court would undergo further transformations. Yet, the memory of Marie Louise Gabrielle of Savoy remained a touchstone for the Bourbon dynasty, a reminder of the queen who had guided Spain through one of its most turbulent periods with grace and determination. Her final years, though marked by hardship, were a testament to her unwavering dedication to her family, her people, and her adopted homeland. Her legacy as a queen, a wife, and a mother continues to inspire and resonate, a beacon of quiet strength in the face of adversity. The death of Marie Louise Gabrielle of Savoy in 1714 marked a turning point in the life of Philip V and the Bourbon monarchy. For a king who had depended so deeply on his queen for emotional stability and political guidance, her absence left a profound void. In the years that followed, Philip's reign was shaped by his struggle to lead without her, and the court of Spain underwent significant changes as it adapted to this new reality. Philip V was not a man well-suited to endure loss. His melancholic temperament, which had been a defining feature of his personality since youth, became more pronounced in the wake of Marie Louise's death. His grief was overwhelming, plunging him into bouts of despair and withdrawal that disrupted the functions of the court. The Queen's death not only robbed Philip of his closest confidant, but also removed the stabilizing influence that had helped him navigate the complexities of kingship. In the immediate aftermath of Marie Louise's passing, the court of Madrid was consumed by mourning. Public ceremonies were held to honor her memory, and her legacy was celebrated as that of a queen who had devoted herself to the well-being of her family and her people. Yet, even as the nation mourned, the business of governance had to continue. For Philip, this presented a daunting challenge. Without Marie Louise's steadying presence, he struggled to maintain focus, and the burden of decision-making often fell to his ministers. The loss of Marie Louise also created a power vacuum within the court. As queen, she had played a vital role in mediating disputes among courtiers and fostering unity among the nobility. Her absence reignited old rivalries and factions, as various groups vied for influence over the king. The French advisors who had been a fixture of Philip's court since the beginning of his reign faced renewed opposition from Spanish nobles who sought to assert their authority. The resulting tensions threatened to destabilize the fragile unity that Marie Louise had worked so hard to achieve. One of the most significant challenges Philip faced during this period was the question of succession. With 4 young sons, the future of the Bourbon dynasty was secure, but the task of preparing his children for their roles as leaders fell entirely on Philip's shoulders. This responsibility weighed heavily on him, particularly in the case of his eldest son, Louis, Prince of Asturias. As the heir apparent, Louis was expected to step into his mother's role as a unifying figure within the court. However, the pressures of his position and the absence of his mother's guidance made this transition difficult. Recognizing his own limitations, Philip relied increasingly on his ministers and advisors to manage the affairs of state. This delegation of authority, while necessary, led to growing tensions within the court. Some nobles viewed Philip's reliance on his inner circle as a sign of weakness, while others saw it as an opportunity to advance their own agendas. The result was a period of political instability that tested the resilience of the Bourbon monarchy. In 1714, just months after Marie Louise's death, Philip remarried. His new queen, Elizabeth Farnese, brought a very different dynamic to the court. Unlike Marie Louise, who had been known for her quiet strength and diplomacy, Elizabeth was ambitious, assertive, and determined to assert her influence. Her arrival marked a shift in the balance of power within the court, as she sought to carve out her own role in the monarchy, while Elizabeth's energy and determination helped to reinvigorate Philip. Her assertiveness also created friction with the Spanish nobility, who were unaccustomed to such a forceful presence in the Queen's role. The contrast between Marie Louise and Elizabeth was stark, and it highlighted the unique qualities that had made Marie Louise such an effective queen. Where Elizabeth sought to dominate, Marie Louise had sought to unite. Where Elizabeth's ambition sometimes alienated those around her, Marie Louise's empathy and diplomacy had fostered loyalty and trust. For many at court, the memory of Marie Louise served as a reminder of the stability and harmony that had defined her tenure as queen. Philip's relationship with Elizabeth, though initially strained, eventually developed into a partnership that mirrored his bond with Marie Louise in some respects. Elizabeth's ambition drove many of the policies of Philip's later reign, particularly in the realm of foreign affairs. Her focus on reclaiming lost Spanish territories in Italy reflected a vision of Spain's future that was both bold and controversial. While Philip often deferred to her judgment, he continued to grapple with the emotional void left by Marie Louise's absence. Throughout these years, the memory of Marie Louise remained a powerful influence on Philip. Her legacy as a queen who had guided Spain through its most turbulent period continued to shape his decisions and his vision for the monarchy. In moments of doubt, Philip often invoked her name, reflecting on the wisdom and strength she had brought to their partnership. Her influence endured not only through her children but also through the values she had instilled in the court and the nation. As the years passed, Philip's grief softened, though it never entirely disappeared. His reign, while marked by challenges and controversies, was also defined by the foundations that he and Marie Louise had laid together. The unity of the Bourbon dynasty, the modernization of the Spanish court, and the consolidation of Philip's rule were all testaments to her enduring impact. Even as new challenges arose and new figures emerged, the memory of Marie Louise Gabrielle of Savoy remained a guiding light for the Bourbon monarchy. Philip's later years were shaped by a sense of reflection and gratitude for the queen who had stood by him during the most difficult period of his life. Her death had left a void that could never truly be filled, but her legacy continued to inspire and sustain him. As he looked toward the future, Philip carried with him the lessons he had learned from Marie Louise, a commitment to compassion, diplomacy, and the quiet strength that defined her reign. Her influence, though silent, was everlasting, a testament to the power of a queen whose spirit transcended the bounds of time. Marie Louise Gabrielle of Savoy's legacy extended far beyond her lifetime, shaping the Bourbon dynasty and Spain for generations to come. Her influence, though quiet and often understated, laid the foundation for the stability and longevity of Bourbon rule in Spain. The values she imparted, the alliances she forged, and the traditions she began became cornerstones of a dynasty that would weather the storms of history. The most immediate and tangible aspect of Marie Louise's legacy was her children. Her eldest son, Louis, Prince of Asturias, ascended to the throne in 1724 as Louis I, albeit briefly, while his reign lasted only 7 months due to his untimely death from smallpox. Louis embodied the principles instilled in him by his mother. Marie Louise's emphasis on duty, compassion, and unity was evident in his conduct as king. However short his tenure may have been, her second son, Ferdinand, would later ascend the throne as Ferdinand VI, reigning from 1746 to 1759. Ferdinand inherited not only his mother's intelligence and sensitivity, but also her commitment to maintaining the stability of the Bourbon dynasty. Under his reign, Spain enjoyed a period of peace and prosperity, characterized by reforms in administration and finance that strengthened the nation. Ferdinand's dedication to his people and his careful stewardship of the monarchy reflected the lessons of compassion and pragmatism that Marie Louise had worked to instill. The younger sons of Marie Louise, Philip and Charles, also carried forward her legacy in significant ways. Philip became Duke of Parma, Piacenza, and Guastalla, establishing a Bourbon branch in Italy, while Charles would later become Charles III of Spain, one of the most celebrated monarchs in Spanish history. Charles III's reign, from 1759 to 1788, was marked by progressive reforms that modernized Spain and reinforced its position as a major European power. Charles's policies of enlightened absolutism, his focus on education, and his emphasis on public welfare bore the unmistakable imprint of the values passed down from his mother. Marie Louise's influence was not limited to her children. It also shaped the Spanish court and the broader Bourbon legacy. Her efforts to integrate French and Spanish traditions created a cultural synthesis that defined the Bourbon monarchy. The modernization of the court, from its etiquette to its patronage of the arts, reflected her vision of a monarchy that was both rooted in tradition and open to innovation. Her contributions to the arts, education, and diplomacy set a precedent for subsequent queens and consorts, who looked to her as a model of leadership and grace. The alliances forged during her lifetime also played a critical role in shaping the trajectory of the Bourbon dynasty. Marie Louise's ties to the House of Savoy and her diplomatic efforts to maintain strong relations with France ensured that Spain remained a key player in European politics. The stability she helped create within the court allowed the monarchy to focus on broader strategic goals, including the reclamation of lost territories and the strengthening of Spain's global empire. Marie Louise's legacy was further cemented by the lasting impression she left on the Spanish people. Her compassion and dedication to the welfare of her subjects earned her a place in their hearts, and her memory was preserved through stories, monuments, and public ceremonies. She became a symbol of resilience and unity, a queen who had navigated the challenges of her time with dignity and strength. Her ability to connect with people from all walks of life, from nobles to commoners, ensured that her legacy was not confined to the walls of the royal court but extended throughout the nation. Even Philip V, who remarried and continued his reign after her death, carried the influence of Marie Louise in his decisions and policies. His later years were marked by a sense of reflection on the partnership they had shared and the lessons he had learned from her. While his new wife, Elizabeth Farnese, brought a different dynamic to the court, the memory of Marie Louise remained a guiding force for Philip and his descendants. The Bourbon dynasty, strengthened by the foundations Marie Louise had helped build, endured through centuries of change. Her legacy was evident in the stability of the monarchy, the flourishing of Spanish culture, and the continued prominence of Spain on the world stage. The values she championed, duty, compassion, diplomacy, and unity, became hallmarks of Bourbon rule, shaping the identity of the dynasty and the nation it governed. In the broader context of European history, Marie Louise's story is a testament to the enduring impact of quiet leadership. Though she reigned for only a brief time, her influence extended far beyond her years, touching the lives of those around her and shaping the course of history. Her legacy, carried forward by her children and celebrated by generations of Spaniards, remains a beacon of resilience and grace, a reminder of the power of steadfast dedication in the face of adversity. As Spain moved into the modern era, the memory of Marie Louise Gabrielle of Savoy continued to inspire. Her story was not merely that of a queen but of a woman who understood the weight of her responsibilities and rose to meet them with courage and compassion. Her legacy as a mother, a queen, and a builder of a dynasty endures as one of the defining narratives of the Bourbon monarchy, a legacy that transcends time and continues to resonate in the history of Spain and Europe. Marie Louise Gabrielle of Savoy's life was a brief but luminous chapter in the history of Spain and the Bourbon dynasty. She was not a conqueror or a revolutionary, but her quiet resilience, compassion, and wisdom proved as enduring as the mightiest of empires. Her death at the young age of 26 left a void in the heart of her husband, Philip V, and the nation she had come to embody. Yet, as the years passed, her legacy endured, carried forward by her children, her court, and the dynasty she helped to secure. For Philip V, the memory of Marie Louise remained a source of strength and solace throughout his life. Though he remarried, her influence on his reign and his character was unmistakable. Her ability to navigate the complexities of the Spanish court, foster unity among its factions, and provide unwavering support during the War of Spanish Succession set a standard for partnership and governance that Philip sought to emulate. Even in moments of doubt and despair, her example guided him, a testament to the enduring bond they shared. The Bourbon dynasty, which she had helped to solidify, flourished in the years following her death. Her sons, most notably Ferdinand VI and Charles III, inherited her values of compassion, pragmatism, and dedication to the welfare of their people. Their reigns were marked by stability and progress, legacies that bore the unmistakable imprint of their mother's influence. Through them, Marie Louise's vision for a strong, unified, and compassionate monarchy was realized, ensuring that her contributions were not lost to history but became integral to the story of Spain. Marie Louise's influence extended beyond her immediate family. The court of Madrid, transformed by her efforts to modernize its traditions and foster a spirit of openness, became a model of cultural and political synthesis. Her patronage of the arts and her emphasis on diplomacy left an indelible mark on Spanish society, shaping its trajectory in the 18th century and beyond. The alliances she forged during her lifetime, both within the court and with other European powers, continued to bear fruit, strengthening Spain's position on the world stage. In the eyes of the Spanish people, Marie Louise became a symbol of grace under pressure and the quiet strength that defines true leadership. Her compassion for her subjects, evident in her charitable works and public appearances, earned her the love and respect of those she served. Even after her death, her memory was preserved in the stories passed down through generations, a reminder of a queen who had devoted herself to the well-being of her people. As history marched forward, the memory of Marie Louise Gabrielle of Savoy was celebrated not only for what she achieved during her lifetime, but for the enduring values she represented. In a time of great upheaval, she stood as a beacon of stability and hope, a figure who understood the profound responsibilities of leadership and met them with unwavering dedication. Her legacy, woven into the fabric of the Bourbon dynasty and the history of Spain, remains a testament to the power of quiet, compassionate leadership in the centuries since her death. Historians and writers have reflected on her life as an example of the often overlooked contributions of queens and consorts. While kings and generals often dominate the pages of history, Marie Louise's story reminds us that leadership takes many forms. Her ability to unite, inspire, and guide during one of Spain's most tumultuous periods speaks to a strength that transcends the limitations of time and circumstance. Marie Louise Gabrielle of Savoy's journey, from a young girl in the House of Savoy to the queen who stabilized a fractured kingdom, continues to resonate as a story of resilience, love, and legacy. She was more than a queen. She was a symbol of the quiet power that shapes nations and a reminder that greatness is not always found in the grand gestures of history, but in the steady, unwavering commitment to duty and compassion. Her life and legacy remain an enduring testament to the strength of the human spirit, a light that continues to shine in the annals of history.